Hi everybody, I'm State Representative Ken Gordon. We're here for another episode of Rapping with the Rep, and I'm excited to be able to have an opportunity to discuss public safety with the chiefs of police from our district, Chief Mike Kent from Burlington and Chief Bobby Bongiorno from Bedford. Welcome to our show.
Thanks, Rep. It's great to be here.
Thank you. You know, we're in a tough time right now. We've had incidents of violence directed against police officers in Dallas when police officers were doing their job and actually protecting people who were protesting at the time. And the protests were directed at incidents of alleged violence between police officers and citizens. Here in Burlington and in Bedford, we're fortunate. We have had a great relationship with our police forces since the day that I was sworn into office. I've had a great relationship and communication with the forces in Burlington and Bedford, and specifically with you as chiefs. One of the reasons for that, I think, are the programs that you both oversee that involve the police forces in the community and with the community. Let's start off by talking about that, the involvement and interactions with the community, and why.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks, Chief, and thanks, Rep, for having us. And this is a great discussion to have in light of what's happening, as you mentioned, across the country. I think it's so important to have robust programs, and those programs build trust with the community. And I think what we're trying to accomplish in Bedford, and I know certainly in Burlington, is to build that trust and rapport with our citizens. And I think that leads to transparency. Specifically, we have a long-standing program with our school resource officers that are embedded in the school, working with our youth every day. We try to run we are going to run a Citizens Police Academy. We do our youth basketball league. We do a bike safety day involving bicycles and giving out helmets. So we are really trying to work on enhancing that partnership with the community and having our officers out in the community day in and day out. And I think that's one of the great things about Bedford. It's a great community because there's such civic involvement, and I think our police officers really buy into that civic involvement.
I see that same type of activity going on in Burlington as well. So
yeah, we have a number of programs. One of our biggest is the Rad Program, Rape, Aggression, Defense, which was originally started just for females, but now is expanded out where we do it with, we're going to be starting 2 weeks with the younger children that they do every summer, a 2-week program. We do it with the elders. We do it right at the end of the school year for all the females in the senior class. They're going to be going away to school just to give them an idea of what different things they can do to defend themselves. That's one of our big programs. Similar to Bedford, we try and engage the community. Any of the things on the common, we usually have an officer on a bike out there. Mm-hmm. Not so much for the security end of it, but just to engage the community, get to know the community. We're fortunate in Burlington where most of the officers were born and bred and still live in Burlington. I get young officers that I hire, and they buy their house in Burlington because they're part of the community. They're in the fabric of the community several generations in.
It's Chief.
Representative, and I need to salute you for your support of local law enforcement as well. You've been staunch in your support, not only during our challenging times, but during our periods when we're trying to do our day-to-day activities. 3 programs that come to mind that I know Burlington is very involved in is Bedford has a long-standing relationship with the Domestic Violence Service Network. Right. And that's a long-standing program that's grant-funded and supported by you and the folks up at the legislature. We just began a jail diversion program in which we have a mental health clinician that's co-responding with police, and that's a regional approach. Restorative justice, something that Chief Kent and I strongly believe in. So that's another program that we offer to the community. And lastly, a new formed partnership with the Central Middlesex Police Partnership, which is formed to fight this opioid epidemic. So those are really important programs that I know that you back and support, and I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, thank you very much for saying that. With respect to restorative justice, I think you know that I've co-sponsored that for 2 sessions in a row. We have a few sessions left. I hope we can get it through because it's a program that makes sense. It's a program of justice in which, in the appropriate circumstance, we identify the victim of a crime and the perpetrator of a crime, and we get through counseling the victim and the perpetrator attempt to work it out so that they can both get to a better place, and rather than go through a system, a court system that'll change people's lives, usually for the worse in both instances. Now they can come to an understanding and get the peace that's otherwise hard to get.
Right.
What the Rad program is so important these days, because we're reading about incidents of not only violence against women and men now in colleges, but the sexual harassment it goes through, and historically all the things that have been brushed aside in schools and colleges, and now to be prepared and understand, no means no, you have rights, and this is how to respond when you're put in that situation.
It's a wonderful program, and the officers that put it on, it's a lot of work, because you're out there in addition to teaching, like with the young children, the stranger danger, run if you can, but they also put on protective suits and actually have the people fight them off, if you will, with what's been taught over the week. So it's a lot of work, but the officers that do it enjoy it. And again, they realize what a huge resource it is to the community. And I believe they say that, particularly with the youth, there's never been a documented nationwide a child that went through that program that's been abducted. So,
that's a tremendous outcome. It really is, and it's high time that we prepare our students and prepare the community for what we know has been happening, because preparation is the key in so many ways. A couple of weeks ago, I was at the graduation of the YPSA. That's Sheriff Katusian's program, where he brings kids in, elementary school kids in for a week, and they visit the police departments. I know they've visited those in Burlington and Bedford. They go to the fire stations. It's a great program. I know you've been involved, and it's another way that we introduce our citizens, our kids in this case, to the fire and police departments.
Another great initiative, and it is so professionally run. It is 1 week of, it's beyond a summer camp, because we're teaching our children life skills. We're teaching them about safety, police safety, fire safety. And I think it's really important that Sheriff Katusian has taken a look at that curriculum and he's developed it. So it's more than just having our youth go and experience some summer kickball games, or it really is educating our children to be safety conscious, but doing it in a fun way. And it's a free, I don't know where in this day and age that he is allowed to get the resources, where he finds the resources to run a free camp. But it really is amazing. And they spend one day back in our respective communities. And that's when we have officers that go. And that's really a day of fun. They take a tour of the police station. They get to meet with the chiefs and look at our operations. Have a lunch, and again, what it is teaching our children life skills, but then breaking down those barriers sometimes that exist between police and our youth, because quite frankly, sometimes a uniform can be intimidating. Right. And it's really great for our youth to see police in a different light.
And really, that's such the point of what we're talking about, are these incidents where our kids are seeing their police as their friend and as the safety, as those that represent safety. And you can go there and feel confident.
I always tell any of the youth groups that come that I hope I'm looking at future Burlington police officers in the audience, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and you most likely are.
Yeah, absolutely.
One or two will catch that bug.
And here's a great little story, an anecdotal story. Chief Kent and I know he does, many times we have youth that are interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement. And I'll meet youth night or day that are interested in law enforcement. And in this one particular opportunity, I took the opportunity to meet this youth. Actually, strike that, he was a young adult. But I met him beginning as a youth. Several years later, he was on our police list. He was in the Navy serving this country. And lo and behold, he turned up #1 on our list. And it's Officer Jason Kennedy. The moral of the story is that of all the probably multiple youth that I've met, this is the first time I actually met one that became a police officer. And I think that's a great story, and he does a great job for us. He's really embedded in the community and grateful to serve the public.
Yeah, it is a great story. In Burlington, we had an incident at a mosque a couple of years ago. And Chief, you were there, right? The first meeting that we had, where we had the leaders of the congregation together. We had, and you, as the meeting started, offered your support, help, and said, what can we do? And we're there for you. One of the leaders of that congregation, his son, was with you as an intern and interested in becoming a police officer
Intern,
too.
and we hired him, and
You hired him.
he was one of our latest hires, and he's on the road now, working on his own and doing a great job. So,
And what's his name?
Ramiz.
Ramiz.
Andevia.
And Ramiz he served in the military.
Yes, he did.
And he came into Burlington and with tremendous enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And then I know worked with you as soon as he could.
And that was one of our when the department exited civil service. One of the things we were looking for was to go deeper into our community. To have we have a diverse community in Burlington and have that reflected on the police department. So I think Ramiz is a good start. He's a top-notch officer, regardless of his ethnicity.
Right, and it's a great example, in my opinion, of when you came in my opinion, meaning when I was there, and I saw what you were able to do to gather the community together and said, we're here for you. Chief Bongiorno, you did the same in Bedford. I mean, when we had incidents of anti-Semitic graffiti and comments and things like that, you were there taking the lead, saying, okay, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to show in our response to these instances what kind of a community we are.
And Rep, thank you for that. And that was a community-based response. It just didn't start with the police department. It was great to have our leaders, including you, our elected leaders, our appointed leaders, school leaders, community leaders, all standing together saying, Bedford is not going to tolerate this. This is no place that we're going to tolerate hate. And I think from that, great things have come. Bedford embraces diversity. I think the Bedford community is stronger now as a result of what happened in those incidents in 2011.
I think you're right about that. And in Burlington, I think the community is stronger as well as a result of the response to those types of activities.
We have a strong relationship with the interfaith clergy.
Yes.
Which are a resource. A great group of people. So, again, you build on that. As a matter of fact, when we gave our test 2 years ago, I went through the clergy to get the word out to their parishioners that we were giving a police test, and, we wanted a wide variety of people taking the test, you know what I mean?
So what do you do? What type of training do the officers go through with respect to diversity and respect for the different types of people that they may run into in our community?
So I think it begins at the recruit level. I think that the Massachusetts Police Training Council has changed their curriculum. In light of what's happening across the country, Massachusetts was way ahead of the curve in looking at the curriculum that we train our police officers, changing that curriculum, and including more community-based programs, more diversity, talking about implicit and different biases that we may have into policing. But I think we've further developed that curriculum into our in-service program, which is the training for our veteran officers. We've looked at that training and we've changed that curriculum as well. And I think it includes our ranks as well. For the first time ever, Massachusetts chiefs are required to attend training, which I think is a good thing. And that training, again, is about the events that are happening across the country and how, as leaders, we deal with that. So I think training, the common theme here is training, and that's a huge core of what we do and why I think Massachusetts is way ahead of the curve with respect to policing.
I think both our departments and our communities are fortunate where they give us the resources to train our officers to a high level in a broad array of things, not just firearms and defensive tactics, but management, human relations, things like that. So, I always try and tell, if I'm at a selectmen's meeting, that we're very fortunate the way town meeting, the selectmen, and the town administrator fund our budget to allow us to do that, because oftentimes when you see incidents with the police department that you call into question, it's an underfunded police department,
Right.
and they're trying to do as much as they can with nothing.
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
And Rep, I know that you and I and Chief Kent, you reach out quite frequently. We have a very strong relationship. And I think you hear the frustrations from police chiefs
Right.
with respect to funding. And we had mentioned that there are a lot of special interest groups in the Commonwealth that are looking for a very tiny pie of that funding. But you've all been a very huge supporter of police training and understand that we need that. One of the frustrating things for me as a police executive is, we see the President's 21st Century Task Force report, which calls for the police to break down the barriers with the community and to initiate community policing programs. We have been doing that for many years. one of the things, and that was funded under a previous, that was funded, and then when Governor Patrick came in, that was zero funded. So all those programs that we were using to fund this were now eliminated. Those RAD classes, those Citizens Police Academies, the police athletic leagues involving basketball and other activities, that was eliminated. And what it caused was an unfunded mandate, as the chief mentioned, and it caused us to really dig down deep in our budgets and look for other creative ways to supply those programs, because we thought that the elimination of the program was not an answer. So it's really a challenge to meet the demands of the community, who demand transparency and trust, and we try to respond to that, but yet with a lack of funding, it makes it quite difficult. And again, you've always been there to answer the call and try to look for that funding, but we need to continue that dialogue.
Yeah, and I have, from that personal level, as your representative in Bedford and Burlington, but we could do more as a legislative body. And you know the pressures that we're under, which is that we have a limited pot to divide, and there are a tremendous number of worthy causes, and I know you agree with that. This is just as worthy as the others, and we can do more, because police training affects all of us every day, in our everyday lives, and we need to support that. And it's crucial to support that, and to withstand some of the political pressure that we get. There's Governor Baker, when he described it, he says there's a difference between spending money, which he says I'll support, and wasting money, which I don't, and we need to be able to distinguish the two, as long as we're, and I think the taxpayers, the residents, understand that as long as we're responsible with the money that they provide for us to run the government, and that's what they can expect. That's the most they can expect, or I should say the least they can expect.
And I think that's true right back down to the local level. When we put our budgets in, it's the same thing. If we can justify things, we're spending money on X, Y, and Z, and it's making a difference. We're lucky that the town fathers allow us to do that.
And so I'd like to talk in a little bit more detail. We were talking about some of the programs that you have involving our youth, but you also have programs involving our seniors. And Chief Bongiorno, you were in one of the senior centers a few weeks ago, conducting a program on fraud, on internet and telephone fraud. And Chief Kent, I know you've done the same with Marge McDonald, running programs there at the COA. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about what you're doing in there?
Well, we actually just appointed a new officer as our liaison, Lynn Reynolds, who again grew up in Burlington, born and bred, and she has taken the ball running, building that bridge with the seniors in town, and Marge McDonald, and we do senior RAD. We do a lot of programs on misrepresentation, scams, things of that nature, where they tend to target the elderly. We try to have a presence at the senior center, with the elderly. Any events, we put on a Christmas dinner every year, which is quite popular. Standing room only by the end of it, and the officers serve the dinner. So they're a special part of the community. They got a lot of history in the community, which I enjoy hearing about the old days in Burlington. Someone that didn't grow up here, and it's just a wonderful aspect of the town.
Sheriff Katusia mentioned they're not a vulnerable population, right? But they are a targeted population. And I think his Learn program, which we participated in, you were their representative, is the beginning of an education program, because scams are on the increase, and they are identifying our seniors. And I think Chief Kent in Burlington, and I think we've done a great job of trying to educate the public on that. One of the initiatives that Officer Deneen initiated, who was our COA liaison between the police department, full-time liaison that works with our seniors. One of the things we have identified is those establishments in town, I believe there are 4, which utilize Western Union. We've worked with those businesses, and we've put a flyer, an awareness flyer, that if you are sending money to somebody that's unknown, stop, call the police. And I can think of 2 instances, both at the Stop and Shop in Bedford, in which seniors did that. And both times the officer was able to go down, let the senior know that this was a scam, and save them from being extorted. And that is what the program is about, raising awareness, working with our partners in the community, and being proactive instead of reactive.
And I hope that there are opportunities coming up in the future for all of our citizens interested in the topic to come in and hear about that, because while seniors are targeted, it also affects others. One of my neighbors in Bedford came to me and told me that he had been targeted, and it's too late. By the time the scam goes through, usually the people have moved on sort of physically. And so folks listening, because this is a good time to stop and talk about what's been happening there. I mean, people are, if you get a call from someone that sounds suspicious, that claims to be your grandson or granddaughter and doesn't say a name, you can test that out. Ask them who they're talking about. What's your name? Because, or calls or emails that sound too good to be true. All you have to do is pay for the shipping and handling, give me your credit card, things like that, and it happens every day.
And I think it does happen every day. And I would venture a guess that the numbers are actually lower because people, I think, underreport it because there's an embarrassment factor.
Right.
So people are reluctant to report this because they're embarrassed. And I think what we need to do is to change that stigma. It happens, and it happens quite frequently because the people that are doing this are very good at what they do.
Right.
So I think all the more, as you mentioned, we need to get out there proactively, raise awareness, and just have people realize, pick up the phone, stop it, ask for a callback number, stop the conversation if you think that it's going down a wrong road. Ask them for a callback number and call your local police department because 9 times out of 10 we'll be able to tell you right on the phone that it's a scam and to stop the conversation.
I'd love to get together in a format like this, except out in the public, so that people from both communities can come in, people who have had questions. People have got a call from the IRS. You know what, folks? The IRS won't call you and tell you that you owe money. They write you a letter and it's certified.
And
you'll know it's the IRS.
Ironically today, and no one's going to send you $21.5 million. I received an email today overseas from a gentleman from a Scotland financial institution who said that somebody tragically died and they want me to get the $21.5 million. Well, that's not going to happen, right?
We know that.
So if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
I'll tell you, we as lawyers get these letters, these emails, almost every day. I need representation. I'm going to make $5 million. All I need is, and you have to give me your bank account so that I can put the fee into your bank account.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if that ever works. I suspect they would stop doing it if it never worked. So there even lawyers fall prey to this type of a thing, and they're the people that you're expecting to be careful.
Right.
So these are great programs that that are already going on, and we could continue for our seniors, for our students, and for women to give them the information that they need to know. This is when, pick your ears up. This is when you need to be careful out in our community.
Agreed.
There are, we read about instances going on in other parts of the country that really don't go on here, and my opinion is if we deny their existence, we can't learn from them. Right. And so what's your opinion on the types of lessons to be learned, things that we can use in our community to make sure that my opinion is that people are people, and if you take 1,000 people, you're not going to get all great people. Training will help, but around the country, people are people. So what can we do to address that?
I think you hit it squarely. Is that we can't ignore that there's a problem across the country. Law enforcement is being challenged daily, and there are people that have some real trust issues with law enforcement. So I think as leaders, what we need to do is confront that and look for, I don't believe that this is a law enforcement issue only. I think that it's really going to take a community-based approach. It's going to take our politicians, it's going to take members of the judiciary, elected appointed officials to really work together and come up with solutions that work for each community. Again, in Bedford, we are extremely fortunate to have the support just because of the horrific events in Dallas. We have been overwhelmed by a response from Bedford residents, business owners and leaders. As you can see, I've probably gained a few extra pounds with all the baked goods, the well wishes, the cards, people bringing in their children to thank a police officer. In Bedford, that has been overwhelming. We need to continue on that trend, continue to have the dialogue, and not shy away from that dialogue. And I think that's how we maintain and enhance our trust in the community.
And Chief Kent, I know the same has been going on in Burlington.
Yeah, it's been overwhelming, and actually, if you follow social media, pretty much nationally, people are showing up at their respective police departments to say thank you. So, it's heartwarming, and Much appreciated.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is that this response is so close to the horrific events in Dallas. We cannot stop that conversation. Being progressive leaders means that we continue this dialogue. We are going to roll out, I know you were at our last fair and impartial policing class at Middlesex Community College,
Right.
in which we brought stakeholders of the community in with police officers working together on what was historically just police-only based training. We are going to follow that up in September with a class taught by Chief Keyes of Chelsea about community engagement. And I know Chief Kent is very interested in that class, and we might look to collaborate together. But I think having those classes, having that dialogue with community between police and the community members and stakeholders is important. So we're looking to roll that out in September. We hope that you can be participating in it.
Absolutely.
Because I thought it was a robust dialogue that we had back in January.
You know, the one thing I just want to point out is we're very fortunate. I think Bedford's the same. Again, I keep talking about the officers, you know. It's not easy to police the community you grew up in and you live in. And, you know, I've been here 6 years, so, you know, I didn't, in my old community, no one lived in it. And I always try and tip my hat to my officers because, you know, they could be at that domestic disturbance on a Friday night in the house and be standing next to the same couple at a soccer game on Saturday. It's a hard thing to do to police your community. And I think in Burlington, my guys, they always raise to the level, and they use that ingrained knowledge of the community, you know, to the benefit of the community. You know, they know the community they police, but it's a tough job. It's you know, you pull someone over for speeding that, you know, is someone you went to school with, or different issues like that. And I think they do a great job navigating that, which I've never had to deal with.
Right.
Because I didn't live in the community, my prior department either. So
Right.
they do a
It's
great
certainly,
job.
yeah, I can see the downside. It can be,
Yeah, it's
you know,
tough.
there can
Sure.
be a conflict there. But then the upside is that we all see each other as the individuals, as the people that we
Absolutely.
are. So, you know, we all have our
Yep.
lives, and we all have, you
Sure.
know, and we're good people. Americans are good people. And that's what you've seen, I think, around the country with on social media, is that we
Absolutely.
get together. And, you know, in this instance, I think that the answer is, if we can get together, rather than blame, you know, other people, pointing the finger, just to realize that if we can come together to solve our problems, it's more productive than running to our corners.
I agree. What we've seen, Americans are better than this across.
Right.
We are the best nation in the entire world, and I think as we get through the emotions, I think right now we're seeing a lot of emotions. As we begin to ease those emotions and ease those tensions, I think that moving forward, you're going to see a robust dialogue, because I think we are by far the best nation in the entire world, and I think that will shine through. And I think in Massachusetts it has, with some robust training and some great initiatives.
Yes, and I look forward to continuing to work with you to add funds to the budget so that you can do these programs that, frankly, you do anyway, but that the state will help you
Sure.
a little bit more to be able to do that. The basketball leagues, and, you know, when we see the officers at the outdoor concerts and all that, you know, one thing I've always noticed is the attitudes of your officers is always very positive. They're very approachable. You can just have a conversation. And so that when the call goes, the 911, or the call goes to dispatch, and now it's a crisis, there's a level of trust that's already been established, and you don't have to start with any type of lack of communication.
And I agree exactly what Chief Ken said. The reason why we have such great police departments is the men and women that wear the uniform. And I think that really goes back to what our selection process is. We have a really robust selection process, and I think we put a lot of time and effort into selecting the best candidates. And I think what the communities see in Bedford and Burlington is that robust selection process, and essentially the cream rising to the top. And that's why our officers are so great and connected to the community.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Thank you very much, both Chief
Thank
Kent,
you.
Chief
Thank you,
Bongiorno.
Representative.
Thanks for
Pleasure.
stopping by Rapping with the Rep. I'm State Representative Ken Gordon. Thank you for tuning in.